me introducing Jodie Foster. Hi.
It's a lifetime achievement award, you know.
What was your question?
To get a
What does it mean?
lifetime achievement award, you know, compared to an Oscar and so many awards that you got.
I love the idea of a Lifetime Achievement Award. I feel like I've been here a really long time. I started when I was 3 years old, so that's 52 years ago. It's a long career, and I think the thing that I'm the most proud of is that I was around in the 60s, and then in the 70s, the golden age, 80s, 90s, the year 2000s, 2010s, whatever this is called. I have no idea what this is called. It's a lot of different phases of the industry, a lot of different eras, really. So,
what type of stories inspire you?
Well, I love movies, so I'm kind of an equal opportunity moviegoer. I like all different kinds of experiences. As a filmmaker, I think I'm really drawn to something that feels very true, that feels really grounded and real. And I get completely sucked into that. I forget where I am, and I get very involved in the actor's performance, and I think it has the opportunity of helping you figure out yourself and become a better person.
After a great body of work, both behind the camera and in front of the camera, and now getting this Lifetime Achievement Award and doing a lot of Q&As and talking to the press, is there anything from your career that you feel you were never asked that you would have liked to talk about? Maybe a certain performance or certain things you did as a director. There's something that you just felt didn't get the attention that you wanted it to.
Oh, there's probably about a million things. Gosh. There's certain gems that I think, that movies that I love, that meant a lot to me, that mean a lot to me, and they may not have been perfect films, but that sometimes I'm sad that they went by so fast. The Beaver, for example, I think was a really big moment in my life as a filmmaker, and it's an odd movie. I knew it wasn't for everybody, but it had difficult circumstances on the release, and I think it's a film that I return to a lot. My thoughts return to a lot. Nell is another movie that I think was very life-changing for me. The Brave One, very life-changing for me, but people don't talk about it a lot.
What's the biggest challenge you have had in your career, Bill?
Biggest challenge? Well, there have been a bunch of challenges along the way. The first was transitioning from being a child actor to being a grown-up actor. I kind of don't remember it as a challenge, but I think that it took my mom as my manager and together with my agent, who's still my agent, Joe Fumicello. I think they thought a lot about that, what was the right move. I think the transition from acting to directing was difficult because sometimes you have to let go of the ring you're holding on to in order to grab onto the one that allows you to evolve as a filmmaker. I think those are two.
Jodie, because you're such a force, I have to ask if your new, yes you are.
Okay.
Your upcoming documentary, Be Natural.
Oh yes.
I need to ask, does that documentary spring up from the movement, the film movement that women are going through right now, the feminist film movement?
Right. Oh, I could never take possession of that documentary. I really am just the voice of the narration. Pamela Green is the filmmaker, and she spent the last 10 years on Be Natural. The story of Alice Guy Blaché, who arguably is the first female director ever of all time in the 1890s, but is potentially the first narrative filmmaker ever. So she worked with Gaumont and the Lumiere brothers. It's an extraordinary story of somebody who's been invisible all these years, and so I just was blown away by the story, and I said, how can I participate? But it's really Pamela's movie.
Jodie, as an actor,
Yes.
what do you expect from a director? And as a director, what do you want to bring to the table for the actor?
Well, I've worked with a lot of directors over the years, and a lot of first-time directors, a lot of seasoned directors, and it's their vision. And so I want to serve them. As an actor, I'm always looking to figure out what it is that they're trying to say, creatively, what is their vision, and how can I jump on to help them with that. That being said, I think the best directors are like great parents. So great parents tell you, you need to get out of your room and you need to be in the car by 9:20. But They tell you that, the car is gonna be at its destination by 10:45, but they give you the freedom to creatively come up with things in between those 2 points. So it's a combination of structure and, just love and freedom.
It's 30 years since The Accused, and
Is
the
it?
impact that film had. I just wondered, over the course of those years, what women have spoken to you about and the impact you feel that role had across the generations.
Wow, I don't really know. I mean, I think it's very hard for us to understand the impact of our own films. I know it had a lot of impact on me. I think it was a life-changing performance for me, and in some ways, in ways that I didn't really understand because I was only 25 or 26 years old, and so I didn't really understand why I was so drawn to it, and I didn't even understand in some ways where the portrayal came from. So much of it was so unconscious, and so much of it was the legacy of my mother and her mother. I was telling their story, their survival story in some ways, as a way of healing, really. So, if that entered into the national consciousness, that's what movies can do. Movies can socially give people an opportunity to work through things that they may not be able to work through in their own life. And I know that was true for me with that movie. I hope that's true for other people.
Jodie, do you still remember the very first award that you received? When did you-
The very first award? No. There were a few little ones. I didn't get an. I guess I did get an Emmy, but it was for the first after school special. It was an after school special, and I played a pitcher on a little league team. But I was nominated for an Oscar when I was 12, and I lost. And that was just a huge moment for me. I mean, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget being in the auditorium. They said my name, and the second they said Joe, I broke out in hives everywhere. My face was red everywhere. My body was itching. And I was kind of relieved when I lost, actually, because I thought, how am I going to do this? I'm itching all over my body. I have red welts everywhere.
Which of the characters you've played do you think you respect the most?
That's tough. I mean, maybe the ones I look up to the most. And that's tough because I kind of look up to all of them in a way, But maybe Ellie Arroway in Contact. That's a character that I really admire. And that's somebody that I think about a lot. I think, wow, that's somebody that I would like to be. I'm not sure that I am, but that's somebody that I would like to be. I think because she is such a combination of just fierce intelligence, mind over matter, the intellectual side, structural side, and somebody who is tormented and inhabited by her emotional center. Those two things combined.
Of all the characters, of all the characters that you played, if you could go back and revisit their story, who would you want to go?
Oh, I would absolutely like to go back to Clarice Starling. I mean, I think, Silence was such an extraordinary experience, and she was such an amazing character. And it would be great to, find out who Clarice was as she went older. Obviously, they made other movies where Clarice got older with other people, but Clarice Starling. Who's Artemis?
What period of hotel Artemis?
I knew there was a hotel Artemis question. Gosh, so many things. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I have, just like the director, Drew Pearce, I have this really crazy nostalgia about Los Angeles, about the buildings from the 1920s and the palm trees and the movie references, the old movie references, the nostalgia of it. Growing up and going to Santa Monica, all that kind of stuff. It's the love of movies, I think, of Hotel Artemis that drew me to it, and also Drew Pearce, who's an extraordinary first-time director. Maybe one of the best first-time directors I've ever worked with. I mean, the most promising.
Jodie, is there one lesson that you learned in your career, or one piece of advice that you wish you could give your younger self?
This is the last question. I guess I never knew I could say no. I thought I was supposed to say yes always. And maybe that was a good quality in a little soldier. I was a good little soldier when I was 6 or 7 years old, and when it was absolutely freezing cold and I had frostbite, I never complained that my toes hurt, or I just didn't know I could say no, and that didn't come to me until I was much later. Now kids have no problem with that. I've noticed that kids have a much stronger sense of self vis-a-vis adults nowadays. I think they're trained to know that that their ideas and their opinions have impact. I kind of wasn't, so that's something that I wished.
Are you still directing Charlie? The TV
Oh, I think about my son Charlie. I directed him? No, that's interesting. No, that project didn't happen. It was set up and then, it didn't happen.
So is your son Charlie going to act ever?
Is my son Charlie going to act? Boy, that's so funny that you say that, because Charlie acts all the time. He's a college. No, he really does. He's a great actor. I just saw him in a new play. I just saw him playing in college, and I was incredibly proud of him. Yes, I have one son who's like improv actor, very outgoing, charming, and my other son is a scientist, and he's he talks about things I don't understand, and I love every minute of it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. I tore my ACL, but look how much better I'm doing. Aren't I doing better right now? But I'm going to have surgery next week, so. But I'm really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.